Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So in my last video, I had done a super quick trip to Alabama, and I realized right after I got back to Arkansas that the Petals from the Past event was taking place there in Alabama. I totally forgot about it, did not realize it was the same weekend. I knew I wasn't going to be doing a lot of traveling this year, and so when I was asked if I was going to be there, I had said no. I did not realize that that was taking place while I was there. Well, the week I was going to be there in Alabama, or I would have come. I know there were some people asking about me, wondering where I was, and I kind of kicked myself that I didn't realize it was the same weekend. Or I would have extended my trip a little bit and come down for it. But I did share in my Friday video that I went to Muscle Shoals. I've only been there a couple of times over the years, but my reason for going there was the Mercantile that I have shared with you guys, I don't know how many times over the years, back when I lived in Alabama. They opened up a second location there in Muscle Shoals, and you know, I think it's kind of a great location because it's not very far from the historic, just music central of the Shoals. You've got Florence nearby, Tuscumbia nearby. There's a lot of things that are not very far away, so it's a great location. There's also some antique stores around the area if you love going antiquing like I do. And so very quickly I was going to show you what I picked up while I was there on my little trip. I went to Ashley Mercantile, of course, but after I had gone there I also swung by a really big antique store that I found nearby on the map. And so when I went in there, I just got a couple of things. I found a very old ironstone type of platter, just a little bitty one. I used to have one kind of similar to this, but I guess somewhere along the move it got lost or broke or something. And so I got this, and mainly I use things like this for food photography. And so that is what this was for. And then I also picked up at the antique store a pair of these. I grew up a child of the 70s and 80s eating on a TV tray when there were special things going on, like The Wizard of Oz was on once a year or things like that. And now this one isn't the kind that I grew up with. The ones that I grew up with had regular legs, but I thought, you know, this little lap version would be really cute. Great for Willow to use when she's sitting in the recliner and doing her coloring books. And so they had a pair of these there, and so I picked these up. So I didn't get a whole lot at the antique store. There were a ton of just beautiful things there, but I don't bring home big things anymore. When you downsize, you just don't have the room for it. All right, so let me share with you what I picked up at the Mercantile. Now, of course, having grandbabies, I picked up a couple little old-fashioned toys, like this top. This is for Willow, and she has been having an absolute ball playing with this. And then I have a couple other little toys. This one is for Willow, but it's going to go in with her holiday gifts. I am sure she will drive everyone crazy with this one. And then I picked these up for my other granddaughter, Emma. Some little bathtub toys that swim around in the water. I thought these were too cute. And then I did pick up a couple of things for myself. So I love fragrance. I mostly fragrance my home with essential oils and diffusers, but every once in a while I do like to light a scented candle. And they have refill kit at Ashley Mercantile, and this one is salted caramel. And so since I have one of those kind of wood bowl candles, which I've used it up, I went ahead and got a little kit so that I can refill it. Now, over here on the wall behind me, you can see some of my Smithy cast iron. Now, I was introduced to Smithy cast iron at Ashley Mercantile, and as soon as I bought my first piece and used it, I was instantly in love with this stuff. I have a video where I talk all about the Smithy cast iron, so if you're interested in that, I will put a link to that in the video description down below or up here in a card or something like that. But in addition to cast iron, they also sell hand-forged carbon steel. And there has been a couple of pieces that I have just been drooling over forever. Well, after holding it in my hand there at Ashley Mercantile, I went ahead and picked one of them up. Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Man, I have been wanting one of these for ages. The other one that I really, really like is the farmhouse skillet. I went ahead and got this one, and it's absolutely beautiful. All right, so now this was called the round roaster, but you can absolutely use it on the stove, especially if you use a gas stove. All right, and then I have one more thing that I got, and I mentioned earlier that, you know, I don't bring a lot of big things to the house anymore because, you know, we downsized a little bit. This kind of doesn't follow that rule. Now, I know that over the years you have seen me use a lot of the speckled enamelware, whether it is mixing bowls or baking dishes, muffin pans, and all sorts of things. As a matter of fact, I had a few extra pieces and sent some to my friend Heather and gifted those to her. But there is one particular thing that I have been wanting to get, and especially when it comes to canning season where I'm mixing up big batches of things, it'd be really nice to have a super, super big bowl. And so that's what I got. Y'all, this thing is humongous. It is, you know, basically a bigger version of the ones that I have sitting up there on the shelf. I have a pair of them, and I use them for mixing up big batches of things. But there's been times when I thought, you know, it'd be nice if I had just one even bigger bowl, and here it is. So I brought this thing home with me, and this will come in very handy when I am just mixing up big batches of things that are being fermented or canned or things like that. And so she came home with me. All right, so that is what I picked up at the Mercantile and the antique store in Alabama. Again, I will put a link in the video description down below where you can get information all about the Mercantile. They do ship things, so if you are interested in something that they carry, they would be happy to help you out with that. Now today, I spent most of the morning out in the garden. To be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to have a fall garden this year just because it's been so chaotic. I didn't get the seeds started when I wanted to and things like that. But I am doing a little bit, and so I'm going to take you on out to the garden and show you what things are looking like out there. All right, so we are out here in the late summer garden. It's been a rough one, y'all, this year. From the bad soil to the extreme heat, so everything went in late. Everything struggled, but the thought was, if I can keep it alive long enough for it to start cooling down, maybe I'll start getting something out of it. So the trellis over here, this was all green beans, pole beans. The variety is called NT Half Runner. And we got a good bit of green beans off of this. Kind of reached the point where it wasn't really doing a whole lot of anything else. So I just kind of let it go. I let the bugs eat what they wanted to. There are still a few random beans here and there, but not much of anything else. It's kind of starting to die off. My peppers went in super late. I have been getting some jalapenos, and I'm seeing some other little bitty peppers here and there. I don't know if I'll get a whole lot else. Maybe there'll be enough time before the first frost, maybe not. But I am considering digging up some of these pepper plants because I learned not too long ago that you can overwinter pepper plants if you dig them up and put them in pots. And so I may just do that. Just pick the healthiest looking ones, bell peppers, jalapenos, all of that. Put them in pots, take them in, and see what happens. It's worth a shot. Down here I've got some Chinese 5 colors. They start off as purple, and then they turn kind of a white color, then yellow, then orange, then red. And if the plant is producing super well, you'll have all the colors on there. Here there's a couple itty bitty little buena mulatas. These start off as purple, and eventually they turn red, and they're kind of hot, like a cayenne pepper. These were the jigsaws, which are a variegated plant, and they start off, well, they have little bitty purple peppers. Pretty purple blossoms. Down here, my basil just kind of went crazy. It is still super healthy, but I have harvested a ton of it, so I just kind of let all of the flowers happen. It makes the pollinators, the butterflies, happy. So that's the basil down there, and then up here on the trellis, I do have all sorts of tomatoes, just kind of all over the place. These were mortgage lifters, if I remember correctly. If they have enough time, they end up being really big tomatoes. Oh, there's some jalapeno peppers down there. Pretty much all of the pepper plants are putting out blossoms, but whether there's time for the peppers to fully form, we shall see. Over here, we've got some paste tomatoes. I think these were Romas. I don't know. I've actually never grown Roma tomatoes before, but these have a pretty distinctive shape to them, so that's kind of what I'm thinking ended up being planted over here. I kind of lost most of the tags for my tomatoes. It has just been quite a year. We got some more down there. My tricolor sage is kind of hanging on down here. Got another jigsaw pepper right there. And hopefully you can see the colors on these. It's kind of super sunny right now. Not the best time to be filming, but the weather is beautiful. All right, so now over here, this is the bed that had all of the squash, all of the zucchini, I should say. It was just completely full. I have so much zucchini in my freezer. It is crazy. Most of the plants got ripped out, but this plant here, even though it's got some major pest problems, it is still trying to produce some zucchini. So I went ahead and left this one in here. However, I want to show you, if I can find it, the stem of this plant is in really rough shape. And I actually did have squash vine borers get in here. However, amazingly, it didn't fully kill the plant. So I decided to just leave it and see if it could survive. You can see some more damage down here. See how the stem is just busted open and it looks like wet sawdust? That's squash vine borer. But if you look down in there, I do have little baby zucchinis. So I decided to leave this plant in the garden, even though it is a hot mess of a plant with all its troubles. But all the rest of the bed I cleaned out. I do have a couple of beautiful sunflowers up here. I don't even remember what variety these were. Some type of autumn queen or something like that. I've got some deep, dark burgundy ones. I don't think these are the chocolate cherry. I believe there's something else. And then kind of an orangey one there. I love sunflowers. I definitely did not grow enough of them this year. But down here in this bed, I went ahead and I planted a whole bunch of starts. I planted a whole bunch of cabbage. So hopefully they will take off. I do have covers to put over these beds. So as we get closer to our first frost estimated, I can go ahead and cover these up and protect them and just kind of let them do their thing. Over on this side, I've got lots of tomato plants. Once again, they are continuing to produce, especially since it cooled down. You know, if you get over 90 degrees or so, the heat just does a number on the blossoms. And you have what's called blossom drop, where the plant will produce blossoms, but then they'll just fall off because it's too hot to do anything. And the plant is just putting all of its energy into survival as opposed to producing tomatoes. Now, I planted two varieties of cherry tomatoes. I planted something called a Super Sweet 100, and these do turn red. And then I also planted another variety called Sun Sugar, and those are a yellow tomato, little cherry tomato. So, and I've got some clusters here, some clusters back there. There's a bunch of them coming up here, just all over the place. And the family has just been coming out here and picking off the little tomatoes and just popping them in their mouths and snacking on them and enjoying them. So, but this variety here is putting out a good bunch of them now that it's cooled down and the plants aren't cooking on the vine. Now up here on the end, I do have some Arkansas Travelers, a slicer type of tomato, not a whole lot of them. Now in truth, I didn't do a whole lot out here this year just because things went in so late. It was so hot. I wasn't hopeful that I would get any tomatoes at all. And, you know, it was just such a struggle this year, everything going in late. Some of these tomato plants, you know, they don't look wonderful, probably because of just all of the issues. But there are some random tomatoes here and there of the Arkansas Travelers. Tons of the little cherry tomatoes, which is great. I'm getting some peppers. Like I mentioned, I got a ton of zucchini and yellow squash. There's so much in the freezer this year. But something else that we got a good bit of is cucumbers. Now, we had cucumbers on a couple of trellises, and this particular trellis originally was supposed to be pole beans, but they were some sort of bush bean. They didn't do good at all. So ripped them out, planted two different varieties of cucumbers on this trellis, and they are doing great. There are cucumber blossoms everywhere. There's little baby cucumbers all over the place. You can see them. See some cucumbers, and there's just gobs and gobs of them on here. I don't even know how many cucumbers have been picked already off of these, but they're doing absolutely great. All right, coming down here towards the end, this particular bed, I had tried to grow some squash in it. This soil was not the same soil that I had put in the rest of the beds. It was not great. And I ended up putting in a lot of compost after I pretty much ripped everything out. And so we're giving this a try once again. I put in some Brussels sprouts. I put in some cabbage starts. And so hopefully these will do better than the original attempt at the garden in here. We have been getting some random okra here and there. They're still producing the little handful of plants over there. Over here in this little bit of a jungle, we do have some watermelons that are starting to grow. There's one there. There's one up here on the trellis, so we put it in a net to support it. You can see there's another one over there. So there's a whole bunch of little baby watermelons growing now. All right, and then in this bed, I have some tomatoes. Now, I have not done anything as far as maintenance of these tomato plants so far. I've been kind of working on the other beds, came out here, did some pruning and tying up and things like that. I have not yet gotten to this bed. I do have some little baby tomatoes here and there. There's some there. There's a tomato over there. There's one down there. And, you know, a few here and there. Not great, but again, this was not great soil. This is the same soil that was in that bed over there, and they just did not do great. And so I've been adding compost, doing all of that, and hopefully, you know, the next things that go in will do a little bit better. Today I did come out here and I planted some Brussels sprouts. Got some there. There's one over there. I put one in right here and there. And then over here I planted a cabbage and cabbage, another Brussels sprout growing along the ground or along the soil right here. If we take a peek, you might see something right there. That is a little baby Kajari melon. And I am so happy to see it. But we've got another one right here. Up here on the trellis, I've got one right here. Now it's interesting because this one does not have the color that the other Kajari melons do. It's solid, which is very unusual. But over here, I've got a couple more Kajari melons. Now, Kajari melons get about the size of a cantaloupe. So they'll get a bit bigger and they taste, I would describe them as a cross between a honeydew and a cantaloupe. Absolutely delicious. And so I'm hoping that, you know, at least a few of these get up to, you know, full maturity and fully ripen so that I get to enjoy them. Now I do have Israeli melon seeds. I did not plant them this year, but that will be part of the plan for next year. Now I had this shade cloth up for the squash that used to be in that bed, and I didn't get a chance to take the shade cloth down, but the watermelon grew up it. So the shade cloth is just going to have to stay there because we've got all of these watermelon tendrils all through it. And then as you can see, we've got a watermelon growing right here. It's kind of got itself wedged into the trellis, so we're just going to leave it there and let it do its thing. I believe I saw another watermelon over here. Oh, yep, right down there. I don't think it was the same variety though, so I don't know. This has just been quite a year for the garden. All right, and then this last trellis here, this is more cucumbers. I believe it was, I think this is Armenian cucumbers. I'm not quite sure. My son is actually the one who planted the second round of cucumbers. And so I don't recall, or actually I don't think he recalls what varieties he planted. But I do think this one was the Armenian cucumber. They definitely don't look like the other cucumbers. They're very fuzzy, they're very long and skinny. So we'll just have to see how they do. But there are baby cucumbers all over the place. And then back there on the other side of the trellis, you can see the lonely stalk of the Mongolian giant sunflower that I had out here. The other day we sliced off the head, took it into the house to let it dry, and I'll harvest all of those seeds. Mongolian giant sunflowers are humongous. They grow really big seeds. They are edible. However, I'm just saving them as my supply for next year's garden. All right, so that is it, friends. Kind of a late summer, beginning of fall garden tour. You know, it was a serious struggle this year. Those of you who are brand new here and didn't see what happened earlier in the year, you know, we just moved here to Arkansas last year. During the winter, I had a whole bunch of trees taken down so that I could build a garden in here. And, you know, then it came time to build it. And I built all the raised beds, filled them all with soil, good rich soil. Spent I don't know how many hours on the road picking up load after load after load of it. I had started all of my baby plants from seeds, you know, spent weeks caring for those, just all the garden things. And when I planted the garden, all those baby plants went from beautiful and healthy to immediately started dying. And I realized that the compost that I had enriched the soil with was most likely contaminated with grazon, because grazon is an herbicide. It has very distinctive symptoms, you might say. And so I pretty much lost almost everything I had planted. I had to change out the soil because the space here is very limited. I don't have enough space to build a whole new garden and leave these beds to sit and wait for grazon to break down. And so I ended up digging out all of the soil except one bed. I did leave the one bed with the zucchini plants because miraculously the zucchini plants looked like they were doing great. So I left those, replaced all the soil in the other beds, which at that time there was 4 beds that I had built. So I replaced the other 3, I built 2 more, and then filled them all in. But by the time it came about, you know, starting all over, it was so hot. We were well into the 90s, well into the 100s. And that is entirely too hot of temperatures to be starting baby plants in the garden. I wasn't sure that we would end up getting anything. But like I mentioned earlier, I got tons of zucchini, tons of yellow squash. I've got, I don't even know how many freezer containers full in there so that I can make zucchini bread and fritters and all the things all winter long. But despite all of the challenges, it felt so good to be able to get out here in the garden, just spend time in the fresh air. But you know, I'm a gardener at heart. I just love being out here, love the process, and you know, I'm looking forward to next year. So Lord willing, things will go in when they should, so the plants don't struggle, and you know, I can spend this winter building up the soil that's in the beds and all of that, and preparing for next year, because you know, it's okay to struggle in the garden. It's okay. We learn. We learn from the mistakes, we learn from the failures, and every year we can do things a little bit better. So that is it, friends. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Oh, this autumn breeze, this cool air, it just feels so good. You can smell the change in the air, and you know, I'm starting to see reds and oranges starting to touch the leaves in the woods all around us, and autumn will be here before we know it. So with that, friends, thanks for joining me here again at the homestead. My name is Constance from Cosmopolitan Cornbread, and I'll talk to y'all next time.